All right, so this talk, I'm going to discuss Zcash contribution pathways, give an overview of the Zcash contribution development infrastructure, and like mentioned in the post, it's not just about contributors, developers. There are also writers and folks that just participate, on the forum, even in a passive sense, like you just go there and you keep up with things, or you're on the Zcap. Just FYI, Zcap poll ends on Friday, if you haven't voted, and there are a number of different avenues that you can sort of pursue. With regards to code contribution, because that is sort of the primary kind of a way, because Zcash itself is code, it's a program. The talk that I'm going to give is different than it would have been 6 months ago, even a year ago, and that is because of development in advanced AI reasoning models and agentic assisted workflows. A year ago, 6 months ago, it kind of worked a little bit sometimes, and now it is exceedingly more advanced and kind of shortcuts the previously understood to be experienced dev, more or less, would have made this thing, and now that's not the case. It could be just anybody, any regular Joe who doesn't know about coding, doesn't know about how Zcash actually works, or anything like that, can just ask the, agent, more or less, to build them whatever kind of program they want and sort of work with it until it looks like it works, and there you go. A year or two, and all of the time going back, like I said, it would have been understood that a human being would have built this thing, at least one, and they would have possessed, a certain degree of knowledge about, coding, at least, and if not, Zcash, you can't just make it up without knowing how it works at all. You can't run Hello World if you don't know how if you don't know how it works, if you've never done it before, right? And so because of that, very recently, the amount of code contributions received, by primarily the Zcash Foundation, whom I work for, and so I can really speak to that, has basically skyrocketed with AI generated PRs, most of which are just sort of fixing a typo, or maybe is just completely wrong. Potentially some of them are okay, but it is also happening in other open source type projects where it is becoming enough of a problem that it is preventing the developers from actually doing their jobs, having to review AI generated PRs that appear to be well founded, and after you kind of go into depth, you see that there's nothing there. And because of this, they have created or implemented a new AI contribution policy, in Zebra in particular, that basically describes how you, the human, if using AI, need to disclose the usage of it and need to be able to explain it, because you are entirely responsible for it. And basically also for the AI itself, when it actually goes through the repo and can hopefully get a better idea of what kind of PRs and things and changes that are useful and would, actually not be ignored. And with that, there has been a flood of PRs and programs, apps, and stuff, and things that have just sort of come out of nowhere. Some of which might be good, but again, it sort of begs the question about the operator's actual knowledge base about what they're doing. And because of this, AI or code contributions in general to Zebra and like Zcash D, well, not really Zcash D, but Zyno, Zingo, all of the active and will persist with maintenance. Those projects, contributing to them isn't any more difficult than it would have been, assuming that you have what would have been pre-assumed amount of knowledge about what you're doing. Like, say for instance, you just made a contribution, you didn't even use AI, you already know what to do, then nothing's really changed. It's designed to keep people who not necessarily don't know what to do, but that and are causing problems from causing problems. Some AI generated PRs, like I said, are useful, but if the operator can't tell the difference, then it's not responsible for them to actually submit these changes or try to make developmental changes. And I don't want to make it seem like I discourage people, because AI is a very powerful tool, and the foundation doesn't want to discourage using it to help you develop things, but you do have to understand what you're doing. You can't just come in off the street, get on Claude, drop $20, and then put out a wallet. If you have no idea about anything, it's just going to cause problems, and it is actually irresponsible. So, that being said, folks who would want to maybe get into developing on the code, responsibly, should probably, obviously everything runs through GitHub. All of the repos, Zebra, Zcash D, LightWallet, Zyno, Zingo, everything is on GitHub, more or less. I think except, what is it? Zenith Wallet. It's on GitLab or something. But anyways, everything else is on GitHub. So, in order to actually make code contributions and stuff like that, you would have to have an understanding of at least how to fork a repo, pull it down with SSH, or just manually make changes to it on the website. That is possible. Pull it down, make changes, push it back up, and then create a pull request for the actual project. I mean, and that's pretty typical, for open source. For people wanting to find more resources about various aspects of the protocol itself. Basically, there are books, more or less, that cover Zebra, Zcash D. They are somewhat complicated, but they are what they are. They're technical documents, and if you're going to actually want to develop on those parts of the protocol, then it's going to be something that you're going to have to actually spend time doing, reading about these things. Not all things, in the code realm, require a base, knowledge in cryptography, for instance. If you just know about, programming and stuff, there are parts of that don't have any cryptography in them at all. And so it's not so, impossible, so to speak, to be able to actually begin developing. Most of the main developers and stuff are, somewhat, pretty brainy folk, kind of come from an academic sort of a background, and I guess, like trying to aspire to that level it takes a lot of work, you know, and but it's not, entirely required. You don't need to be like, extremely versed in abstract algebra, to be able to make a pull request, to make a change to the UI of a wallet. You know, you do need to have a baseline understanding of like the code and the like what it is that you're working on, right? Now, let's see. ZecHub Dev Resources. His page has a bunch of wonderful links to various ZecHub in general, really. But the Dev Resources has links to all of the repos and to the various documentation, certain things, tools, that developers would want to look at when working on, like a wallet or something like that. The Zcash Dev Tool, which is hosted, it's in the ECC repo, or maybe it's in just the Zcash repo, I can't remember. But it's a great tool. It already has a wallet built into it. It has like an inspect tool. It has a lot of great features for helping you work with Zcash data, transactions and hashes and stuff like that. He gives a talk from ZCon VI, virtual, which was ZCon 6, about it. You should check that out. Now, in general, when developing, with wallets and light wallets in general, RegTest and testnet are going to be like what you're going to be using mostly. RegTest is like testnet, except it's just your node. It's one single node. You sort of control like when the blocks get mined, the transactions that get made. You have control over the development ecosystem. So, sort of for like testing, more or less. It's not just kind of like a blockchain that's sort of running wild out there and you have to kind of keep up with it. That is basically testnet. Testnet is also like forkable, and you can also deploy custom testnets a little bit easier now than before. But basically that would make it to where you could pull down like Zebra, make changes, deploy your own little personal testnet, spin it up, and and then see what goes on. As far as like for testing and development purposes like that. Definitely like getting good with RegTest and testnet, is where you wanna be, especially nowadays. I think in days, go in the past, mainnet testing was just like, okay, we'll do it because the price of the coin was pretty cheap. Not so much the case nowadays. Testnet in general can be run like with a lot of the great wallets, Zingo, Y Wallet, Y Wallet technically, but Zcool is a lot easier to get on testnet than Y Wallet. So basically like Zingo, Zcool, EasyCash, all support testnet. It's easy to get testnet coins. They're totally free. You want to like onboard somebody, don't want to risk losing actual money, put your wallet on testnet, hit the faucet, make some transactions, whatever. Like you don't have to worry about it, and it works exactly the same. You can, it's a great, sort of learning tool in general. Okay, now there's also the Discords. The main one, the global one. There is also a R&D one. There's quite a few Zcash Discords that are more specific for wallets and things like that. So if you wanted to like work on, a fork of Zingo, for instance, you might want to hop into the Zingo channel. They actually are on Matrix, I believe, is what it's called. Or if Y Wallet, for example, or Zcool, There's a specific Discord for that. I know now with the whole Discord age verification thing, it's not so great. They are also on GitHub, and you can basically communicate with them, through the pull requests, and so maybe just to reiterate, like the only difference between, like the main devs, and the sort of, I guess, mid devs. I don't want to call them that, but like those sort of levels is just the amount of just knowledge they have about coding and computer science and these things, and that just comes with time. You can't fake that stuff. You can't learn it overnight. It just takes time, and so if you want to actually like make code contributions and developmental contributions, it's something that you're going to you find your way into it eventually. Like mentioned before, meaningful contributions versus slop contributions, like that went on for about a week or two, and like basically put the brakes on it. So if you're working with the AI, it wants to make a PR, you're not sure what it's about, maybe post a message on the Discord. Be like, hey, I want to make a PR. Like, seriously, it'll help out. Like, maybe asking about it first before you just go blasting with this thing that you have otherwise no idea. At least then you would disclose, like, hey, may or may not be like fully responsible enough to well, I think the word at one time, at least for Zips, was to champion the Zip. But you can ask. There's nothing wrong with that. You can ask, and they can be like, yeah, this is no good, or they can be like, this is worth something. Go ahead and make the PR. Like, so definitely want to be open, and talk to people, about it. Yeah. Okay. So code, like I said, main chunk of the thing, and then everything else. And at the very basic level, like I said, just sort of keeping up with what's going on in the community. Follow along on the forum, on the Twitter, on the Discord, obviously. And I think people realize after so much time, it's like these places, they're not immune from like the same kinds of like, I don't know, trolling maybe, and just like, silliness and nonsense that goes on in the other parts of the crypto ecosystem. It's a little different here though. You may have noticed, like, in some places, especially on like the Telegram or the Discord Telegram bridge, like there's no price discussion. That sort of stemmed from like the like way older Discord, and then also sort of like from the forum, where the price discussion was all sort of kept to one like kind of thread, and everybody just posted in there, and anytime it ever popped up on any other sort of conversation, it's like price discussion over here, so that kind of goes on, and you just gotta use your brain, right? You gotta realize, that like the Zcash, it's not the same kind of hype bubble project and all of the nonsense going on, at least at the core, that all of these other things are, and to some extent that's really all they are, probably all that they have. If you see that going on, it should be a flag. You should be, maybe alerted. If you see a phony site, tell somebody, like get on the Zec Hub, of Discord, and be like, hey, this website, took my money. Like, it happened before. It wasn't a lot of money that they took from this at least this person that reported it, but they are out there. Zcash Foundation, enforces the trademark to a certain extent. Just report, weird sites. You can be a part of it. Oh gosh, what else? Okay, so there are blogs, newsletters magazines, like Zcash Espanol, ZechHub, various other ones now that are just sort of popping up. You know, get involved with those. Maybe just write some things. Again, with the AI, it can spit out like pages and pages of text. Nobody wants to read that. Like, we don't want to sit there and read the computer generated book. Like, obviously the AI can help sort of polish things, but at the same time, it kind of comes off as AI polished. Maybe, like, don't be afraid to also just keep it real. Just let it be you, because I think, like, that's sort of a thing that will be a little bit more sought after coming up, is going to be these actual, like, non-AI, types of things. Anyways, yeah, ZKAV Club. I love the ZKAV Club. Get involved. Basically a group of hobbyists, enthusiasts. We like video and we like audio, and we're nerds, and we're also in Zcash. And there's this thing about, we try to instill privacy and open source values and stuff with, like, but also it's like we're recording people. It's like we try to write consent in things, but the idea is to sort of document the community from within itself, instead of hiring some kind of like big fancy film crew or whatever, right? They don't care. They just get paid. They shoot the film, then they box up and they leave. There's actually, like, there for, you're caring about being there. They're not making money being there. They got comped the flight and the stay, and they're doing it because they want to do it. And that's, like I said, that's with coding. You're going to make a meaningful contributions because you're going to want to do it. You're going to make a meaningful contribution, to ZKAVs because you want to. You want to write a good piece. It's because you're going to want to do it.